As part of the fallout from the January 5th incident of Alaska Airlines flight AS-1282, United Airlines is re-evaluating its plans to operate the Boeing 737 MAX 10. While the incident involved a MAX 9 variant, it is widely believed that increased scrutiny and oversight of Boeing operations will lead to further delays, not just for aircraft deliveries, but for the certification of two other 737 variants, the MAX 7 and 10. With all of this in mind, it seems like a good opportunity to examine the capabilities of the longest 737 MAX variant and what options airlines like United have in replacing it. Speaking with CNBC on January 23rd, United CEO Scott Kirby cast doubt on whether or not his airline would be operating the MAX 10. Initially expecting the first delivery of the jet in 2020, the carrier was the planned launch customer for the variant. Indeed, there are already two yet-to-be certified airframes flying in United colours. In the CNBC interview, Kirby commented on MAX 10 delays, saying, "I think the MAX 9 grounding is probably the straw that broke the camel's back for us. We're going to at least build a plan that doesn't have the MAX 10 in it." The very next day, Kirby's doubts received further affirmation, with the Federal Aviation Administration or FAA announcing strong action to deal with Boeing and reassure the public about aircraft safety. In a section titled FAA Actions to Hold Boeing Accountable to the Highest Standard of Safety, the aviation regulator listed the following series of actions to increase oversight of Boeing's production lines: capping expanded production of new 737 MAX aircraft, launching an investigation scrutinizing Boeing's compliance with manufacturing requirements, aggressively expanding oversight of new aircraft with increased floor presence at all Boeing facilities, closely monitoring data to identify risk, and finally, launching an analysis of potential safety-focused reforms around quality control and delegation. These steps will cap or reduce Boeing's output, which will have an impact on delivery timelines for airline customers. With these new actions, the Boeing 737 MAX 10 certification timeline might just slip even further. But interestingly, it's actually not the first time Kirby and his airline have considered a future without the MAX 10. In fact, when discussing MAX 10 delays and doubts about certification extensions or exemptions in 2022, Flight Global quoted the CEO as saying the following: "We would convert aircraft orders to MAX 9s. We would wind up buying more Airbus A321s. We'll get compensation from Boeing, and so financially it wouldn't be a big deal to United. We have a reasonable plan." Thus, it is clear that United has already thought of contingency measures should MAX 10 delivery timelines face further delays. Here are some of the relevant metrics of the MAX 9, MAX 10 and A321neo for the sake of comparison. The 737 MAX 9 has a published two-class capacity of 178 to 193 passengers and a range of 3,300 nautical miles or 6,110 kilometers. The 737 MAX 10 is stated to have a two-class capacity of 188 to 204 passengers and a range of 3,100 nautical miles or 5,740 kilometers. Finally, on the Airbus side, the A321neo is stated to have seating for 180 to 220 passengers in a two-class configuration with a range of 4,000 nautical miles or 7,400 kilometers. Examining the figures, the new alternatives to the MAX 10 are not perfect substitutions. Should United opt for more MAX 9s, then we can see that range will not be an issue. However, the carrier will lose out on about 5% of the capacity that the MAX 10 would have offered. If the airline chooses to deploy an A321neo in place of the MAX 10, then the aircraft would offer slightly more capacity and more range. More range can be considered a benefit in many cases. However, if United was planning to use the MAX 10 on shorter routes, then the A321neo would not be optimal in terms of efficiency as it is a heavier aircraft. For reference, Airbus states that the A321neo is 213,800 pounds or 97 metric tons, while the 737 MAX 10 is stated to be 197,900 pounds or 89.8 metric tons. This maximum takeoff weight difference largely comes down to the extra fuel carried by the A321neo. Thus, on shorter routes, the difference in fuel burn can be mitigated by carrying less fuel. Ultimately, United would be left to choose between a lower capacity aircraft and perhaps additional frequencies to compensate, or operating a heavier aircraft with similar capacity. This would be a similar situation for Delta Airlines and its MAX 10 order. The airline already operates the A321neo, but would have to consider the MAX 9 as an alternative. Ryanair's situation would be more challenging, considering it's an all-737 operator. Its low-cost operations capitalize on fleet simplicity, meaning that it is essentially locked in with Boeing and will either need to wait for the MAX 10 or settle for the MAX 9, leading to higher costs per seat. It appears that Airbus is already trying to position itself and its A321neos as the best option in light of United's hesitations around the MAX 10. As reported by View from the Wing, Airbus is figuring out how to snatch the order, despite having a lengthy A320neo family backlog that stretches out for years. Under normal conditions, United would be better off converting its orders to MAX 9s, particularly if a new order for A321neos would come at the same time as further delayed MAX 10s. With this in mind, it's being reported that Airbus is reaching out to its current customers, attempting to buy back their delivery slots in order to offer them to United. Bloomberg shed more light on the move, saying that Airbus was speaking with jet leasing firms and airlines and proposing to buy back slots for A321neos. At the same time, reports suggest that United is, quote, exploring how it could potentially get out of its agreement with Boeing for MAX 10s. The most recent news coming in with this topic comes from CNBC, which reported that United CEO Scott Kirby flew to Toulouse to speak with Airbus about a potential deal. A person familiar with the discussions told the media outlet, United Airlines has been in talks with Airbus about possible alternatives to the MAX 10 order. To my knowledge, no agreement has been reached. That's the latest at the time of making this video. Things in the industry continue to change quickly, and thus it wouldn't be surprising if more developments have come out already. With United being one of the largest airlines in the world and a major Boeing customer, it looks like Airbus is eager to win even more business from the carrier. Of course, it remains to be seen whether the European plane maker will be able to convince other customers to give up their slots. United could take a wait-and-see approach and hope that MAX 10 certification is not delayed by much longer, but this would leave it with only MAX 9s as the closest new replacement option. So what do you think would be the best move for United? Should it take a wait-and-see approach and opt for MAX 9 swaps when things become clearer? Or should it do what it can to secure A321neos within its desired timeframe? Share your thoughts by leaving a comment. Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles every week. If you're looking for the latest aviation news and insights, visit simpleflying.com.